Some analysts are now claiming that Ford's stock price, after nearly doubling over the last 12 months, will double again this year. Wow. Is this possible? And why are they saying this will happen? Well, it could have something to do with their investment in another electric car company. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans. I'm coming to you here from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to all the new subscribers to the channel. Great to have you here. Welcome back to everyone else. So, what has happened? Well, Ford's stock price has well and truly thrashed Tesla in terms of its performance over the past 12 months. That is, of course, if you just look at the percentage return this year. But if you look at other metrics like the amount of cash generated by Tesla's stock price increasing, even by a smaller amount, of course, Tesla's won that game. It's a different story. Now, Tesla versus Ford. Key question here is, who will win over the next 12 months? Well, if you're talking about electric car sales, it's pretty clear. Tesla's going to win that game hands down. But if you're talking about return on stock price, well, Ford may actually win. And here is one key reason why. Ford is expecting an $8.2 billion US gain on its Rivian investment following the IPO. Ford's 12% stake in Rivian was valued at more than $10 billion in early December following the startup's IPO. And I made a video talking about why Ford chose not to work with Rivian. They'd actually planned to do so previously. They changed their mind, decided not to work with Rivian on an EV together. It would make sense, wouldn't it? If Ford has invested all this money into Rivian, it would make sense for Ford and Rivian to work together. Instead, Ford chose to work with Volkswagen. Why did they do that? Well, I analyzed why that happened. I'll put a link in the description below to that video. You should check that out. Some people said that was one of the best videos I've done. So thank you to those of you who made those statements. I appreciate that. So getting back to this issue here on Ford stock. Ford Motor Company's decision to invest in EV startup Rivian was genius. Brilliant move. It's paid off big time. It made $8.2 billion US. Now, in a statement issued on January the 18th, Ford outlined several large special items that it intends to report on February the 3rd as part of its fourth quarter and full year 2021 financial results. The biggest one is expected to be a fourth quarter gain of $8.2 billion on Ford's equity investment in Rivian following the EV startup's November the 10th, 2021 initial public offering of common stock and a mark-to-market re-evaluation of its holdings. Ford has invested a total of $1.2 billion since early 2019, and currently it owns a 12% stake of the EV maker valued at more than $10 billion in early December. So now, in addition to the $8.2 billion gain from the Rivian IPO, obviously to get to the 8.2, we've got to take the valuation minus the actual investment that Ford made initially. Ford also said it will reclassify a non-cash gain of about $900 million US on the Rivian investment from Q1 2021 as a special item, something Ford said in October it would do after Rivian's IPO. This means the gain will be excluded from the full year adjusted results. Going forward, the Dearborn, Michigan-based automaker said Rivian stock price related gains or losses each quarter will be reported as special items. So if you hold Ford stock, it's just worth keeping that in mind. Now, these disclosures show that Ford continues to gain from its connection to the EV startup even after it exited Rivian's board in September and later announced it would no longer develop an electric vehicle with the Irvine, California-based company. Now, one of the reasons that I believe Ford doesn't intend to manufacture a joint EV with Rivian, and one of the reasons why it took itself off the board, is I believe Ford does plan to sell the majority, if not all, of its investment into Rivian at some point over the next 12 months. And that is my prediction. I'm calling it now. Now, following its IPO, which was the largest of 2021, Rivian saw its market cap briefly exceed $100 billion US, making it worth more than Ford itself, when shares peaked at more than $172 US. Since then, they have fallen 57% in the face of new competition in the electric vehicle market. And obviously, some of the excitement has started to calm down. Investors started to go, hang on a minute. Yeah, this company's great. They're making a fantastic vehicle, but how many of these can they make? How many are they planning to make by 2030? That, I believe, is an important metric. And if you actually have a look at those numbers, they're not that big. Now, for a short time, Rivian's market cap was higher than Ford's. although the auto giant subsequently reclaimed the lead, topping 100 billion in value for the first time last week. It's really important to note this. I mean, if you'd invested in Ford 5 years ago, and then you looked at your holdings 1 year ago, you'd be screwed. The value of your initial investment, if you include the inflation cost, would have gone down by more than 30%. You would have lost a massive amount of money. Plus the opportunity cost, it's enormous. But if you'd held on for the last 12 months, your share price would have nearly doubled. That is insane. And why has this happened? Well, one reason was Jim Farley. Jim Farley said all the right things this year. And of course, Ford released the F150 electric pickup truck, which they now have well over 200,000 pre-orders for, which is extremely important. But in addition to that, it was their decision, their very shrewd decision, to invest into Rivian. I've got to say, Ford, massive kudos on that decision. That has clearly positively affected Ford's stock price. So has hiring Jim Farley. I mean, the hire of Jim Farley has made Ford more money than they could have possibly dreamed of. That dude should get some sort of bonus because his performance has been extremely impressive. Unlike Mary Barrow, who's been making some outrageous comments, Jim Farley has been, I believe, saying and doing the right things over the last 12 months. And remember, Ford is in a very precarious position in terms of their debt. Their debt is very, very high. And in fact, their borrowing ratio is only a few levels above junk. It's not junk. I'm not saying it's junk. I've had people criticize me for this before. I'm not saying it's junk. I know what it is. It's a few levels above junk. So basically, Ford's interest costs are higher than competitors such as Tesla. But now, thanks to their stock price increasing so much over the last 6 months, I believe a lot of Ford's debt might be reclassified. This might enable them to borrow more money. And clearly right now, Ford needs to make more money because they've said a lot of the investment that they plan on making in all these new Ford electric car factories and battery factories is going to come from profit, which they haven't made a lot of over the last few years. So clearly, if they sell their position in Rivian for, say, $10 billion, then they can use that $10 billion to invest in what they need to do, which is build these electric car factories in order to prepare for the future and not be disrupted by others, such as Tesla and Chinese car manufacturers. Now, one thing worth considering is Rivian started trading on the 11th of the 11th, 2021 at 115 US dollars. It was 103 US dollars at the end of the year. It's now at 70 US dollars. It's halved from its highs. In fact, more than half. Now, I've got to say, Ford's very own F150 electric pickup is shaping up to be an impressive competitor to the Rivian R1T. And it looks like Ford's market cap has trended up spectacularly on the perception that it isn't quite the dinosaur it was once appeared to be. So a lot of this information I've just shared with you comes from a press release from Ford, and Ford is trying to point out we are the new guys on the block, and Rivian will not have an easy path. We're going to make things hard for everyone. Now, the question comes back to, will Ford's share price beat Tesla's this year? I would say probably not. I think returns on both companies are going to be very interesting to see, but I believe that Tesla will more than likely deliver about 1.8 million electric cars this year, and it's very unlikely that Ford will even deliver a quarter of that total number. So honestly, I think there's more possibility for Tesla stock to increase this year versus Ford's. But that said, Tesla's stock price is very high in comparison to its price to earnings ratio, whereas Ford's is still relatively low. So there's definitely opportunity there. Now, I should point out that Ford's initial position in Rivian did increase to more than $10 billion, but it's now dropped to $7.5 billion today on Rivian's current valuation. I expect it to possibly drop a little bit further. It's still going to be a great gain, but until Ford actually cashes out, it is still all actually unrealized gains. Paper gains are good, but until one actually cashes in, it can all disappear very quickly. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Is this a paper gain or a real gain? Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.